in the middle of the deadliest war the world had ever seen, when nations were collapsing, skies were blackened by bombers, and entire cities were reduced to rubble, an idea was born so bizarre, so utterly insane, that it should have never worked. But it did. And not only did it work, it changed the course of World War II, saved tens of thousands of lives, and helped bring Hitler's war machine crashing to its knees. The mission was called Operation Mincemeat, and it was so absurd that it sounds like the plot of a Hollywood spy thriller. But this was no fiction. This was real, it was deadly, and it was buried under layers of classified secrecy for more than half a century. The year was 1943, and the Allies were preparing for a critical invasion. North Africa had just been secured, but the next move, invading southern Europe, was no secret to anyone, especially Adolf Hitler. The logical next step was Sicily, a vital stepping stone to Italy and the heart of Nazi-controlled Europe. But the problem was, the Germans knew it. Intelligence reports confirmed that the Nazis were heavily fortifying the island with machine guns, artillery, landmines, and an army of seasoned soldiers. A direct assault would be like charging headfirst into a meat grinder. British intelligence needed a miracle. Enter Section 17M of British Naval Intelligence, led by the calculating and coldly brilliant Ewan Montagu and his eccentric partner Charles Chumley. Together, they cooked up a plan so unorthodox, so mind-bendingly theatrical, that most of their peers dismissed it as lunacy. The idea? Trick the Germans into thinking the Allies were planning to invade Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily, by planting fake invasion plans on a dead body and letting it accidentally wash ashore in Nazi-friendly Spain. They called it Operation Mincemeat, and it would become the most outrageous act of strategic deception in modern warfare. But first, they needed a body. They found it in a London morgue, a homeless man named Glyndŵr Michael, a Welsh vagrant who died after ingesting rat poison. He had no family, no friends, and most importantly, no one who would question what happened to his body. In death, Glyndŵr was transformed into Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. They gave him a complete life, military credentials, love letters from a fabricated fiancée named Payne, a photo of her tucked in his wallet, a receipt from a fictional tailor, a stub from a London theater show, a hotel bill, every minor detail carefully curated to make him real. But the crown jewel? The briefcase chained to his wrist. Inside, forged top-secret documents outlined a fabricated Allied plan to invade Greece and stage a fake landing in Sardinia. The brief made reference to Operation Husky, the real invasion of Sicily, but cleverly downplayed it as a diversion. The goal was clear. If the Nazis got their hands on the papers and believed them, they'd shift their forces away from Sicily, opening a deadly weak spot in their Mediterranean defense line. At 4 a.m. on April 3, 1943, a British submarine surfaced off the coast of Huelva, Spain, and the crew released Major Martin's body into the sea. It was dressed in full military gear face down, briefcase still attached. Within hours, a local fisherman discovered the body and alerted Spanish authorities, just as British intelligence had planned. Spain was officially neutral during World War II, but its intelligence network was riddled with Nazi sympathizers, and Huelva, practically a revolving door of Axis spies. Within days, the contents of the briefcase were secretly handed over to German agents, photographed in full and sent directly to Berlin. But the success of the plan depended on more than just delivery. The British had to make it look like they didn't want the documents falling into enemy hands, while quietly making sure they did. So they staged a reaction. British officials sent frantic telegrams demanding the return of the briefcase. Naval attachés fumed. A message from Churchill's office read, "Treat with utmost gravity. This may compromise our entire Mediterranean strategy." The Germans bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. Hitler personally read the documents and immediately diverted panzer divisions and Luftwaffe squadrons to Greece and the Balkans. His generals were convinced an attack on Sicily was now a decoy. Troops that could have reinforced the island were rerouted. And when Allied forces stormed Sicily on July 9, 1943, they faced less resistance than expected. The Germans had been outsmarted by a dead man who never existed. The invasion of Sicily was a success. The Nazi lines buckled, the Italian regime crumbled. Benito Mussolini was overthrown just 2 weeks later. Hitler's southern flank was now exposed, and it all started with one fake officer, a briefcase of lies, and a body that drifted ashore with a forged identity. But that's not where the story ends. British intelligence made sure to bury the operation so deeply no one would discover it for decades. Operation Mincemeat remained classified until the 1970, and even then only partial details were released. It wasn't until the 1990 that the public learned the full truth. In 1998, a plaque was added to Major Martin's grave in Huelva, finally revealing his real name. Glinder Michael, remembered forever in death. And the operation? It has since been studied in military academies worldwide as a masterpiece of deception. It proved that in war, the battlefield isn't always where the bullets fly. Sometimes it's in back rooms, behind typewriters, in false identities and forged letters. Sometimes the greatest weapon isn't a gun or a tank. It's an idea so bold, no one would dare believe it could work. What makes this story even more haunting is that the Germans never realized they were duped. Hitler remained obsessed with Greece for months. He reinforced the wrong fronts. And as a result, the Allies gained momentum that would lead them all the way to Rome, then into France, and eventually into Berlin itself. The body of Major Martin is still buried in Huelva under a headstone that reads, William Martin, Royal Marines, whose body served his country well. But beneath that stone lies a man who had no idea in life that he would become one of the most critical pawns in a war that spanned continents. Blind Michael, homeless, anonymous, forgotten, became, in death, a war hero. Hit that subscribe button now, because the wildest stories, the ones they don't teach in school, are the ones that changed everything.